Yeah. Zoom out. About that. This. Hello.
Morning. I'm Reverend Paul Beckel. Welcome to Bellingham Unitarian Fellowship. Here, all who come in the spirit of goodwill are welcome. Here, it is not important to espouse pre-established positions on the nature or existence of the divine, nor use the same methods and sources to reflect on the myriad interrelated questions. How to treat each other, though, and how to live with integrity and care in this particular moment in history. With these questions, again, we don't have precise positions upon which everyone must agree. An important method, however, a sacred, life-giving spirit we commit to, is that in matters that impact all of us, we honor each person's right to contribute to the decision-making within our congregations and in society at large. Today we'll be exploring the interplay of faith and action, and why, while tolerance is vitally important to us, we cannot tolerate that which undermines the inherent worth and dignity of every person by subverting the democratic process. A few announcements. After the service, I hope you will all join us downstairs for coffee and refreshments, especially if you're new. This is a great and important way of knowing what buff is by knowing who the buffsters are. What will not happen at the end of the service today is the scheduled fire drill, because I'm afraid we wouldn't get a lot of cooperation if it was pouring. So that's been postponed 2 weeks. But I do want you to know, it's worth repeating, the only way to get out of the sanctuary in case of fire is that door, which has a ramp, and that door, which has stairs. Please do not go back into the building, and I say that in particular to parents who naturally are concerned about their kids in the other side of the building. They will be escorted by 3 teachers out the side door through the fire stairwell. When you go out here, you meet on the lawn across I Street. They will come to the same place. So I'll go through that in a little more detail in a couple of weeks. So do come back for the fire drill in a couple of weeks. But next week, it's Halloween weekend, so come in costume, please. It is always so much fun to see you in costume, and especially to not know who you are in costume. And we also have a potluck next Sunday, so please bring enough to share. And Ren and Jim have an announcement too.
Good morning. As many of you know, my name is Jim Reimer. I wear many hats here at Buff. I became the head of the Buildings and Ground team when Frank McDonald handed me the keys unceremoniously one morning.
Years and years ago.
About 5. Since then, I've worked on big projects and small projects, from changing light bulbs to helping with the kitchen and the new dishwasher. Along the way, I've collected great ideas from the staff, from Paul, and from you all. And I must admit, I'm a little bit overwhelmed because I've got way, way too many great ideas and not nearly enough time and budget. But in the meantime, Ren has offered to help out. And, well, I'll let her tell you about it.
Thank you, Jim and others. Yep, thank you. Thank you, Jim and others, for your 5 years of wonderful work, and everybody who has helped maintain our beautiful Buff home. My name is Ren, and I am here to support Buff's Buildings and Grounds. What a day, today is something grand. It seems to say, come on and take my hand. I think that we could just sing and play. Okay, I got it. We'll sing and play. Enjoy the wonders of our bright and sunny day. Sunshine falling on my face makes me feel so fine, can't you feel it? I'm so glad that you're with me, enjoying this bright sunshine. What a day! Thank you. And we have sunshine in the building at least. So on that note, I invite you to share your skills to help maintain our Buff home. The importance of Buff's Buildings and Grounds Committee is to maintain a strong and balanced foundation that is supporting wonderful spiritual work. I think about how it is for each of us dwelling in our own physical body. This is our personal home. I believe that a healthy and balanced physical body empowers us to live fully and easily in the world. We are able to do our spiritual work and enjoy time on earth because we have our physical bodies as a grounded support. When I clean my basement or organize my workshop in my own home, I feel clearer and more balanced. I feel like I've done spiritual work during that whole time. Just as our physical body and organization of our lives is important to keep us healthy and able to move forward, it's also very important to keep Buff's physical structure, Buff's home, balanced, healthy, and organized as well, so all the good work that is done in this wonderful building can continue. We need your skills, from installing a gate, painting and pruning, to changing a light bulb. There's a list on the Narthex bulletin board. Oh, that's right. There really is something for everybody. So look for me downstairs after the service to sign up. Supporting Buff Building and Grounds is supporting a home for all of us.
It's me again. I'm Shersty Nelson, and I have news about the auction, which is on November 2nd. But first, I'd like to tell you about this guy named Marvin. Every night, Marvin would pray that he would win the lottery. And one night, as he was saying, "Please, let me win the lottery," he heard a voice. And that voice said, "Meet me halfway on this, Marvin. Buy a ticket." So, by the same token, for Buff to have a chance at winning the jackpot with this auction, you need to buy your tickets. Go online to octria.events/Buff2024 or go to the information table after the service. Ticket sales will end a week from today, October 27th. And the auction still needs your donations. The deadline is midnight tonight. If you wish to donate, go online or go to the information table. Online bidding will start next Sunday. You can also donate to the raffle basket, and you can volunteer. There are details in your order of service or at the information table. Our theme is Celebrate Life, Honor Legacy. And toward that end, you are invited excuse me, to share a dessert made from a family recipe that invokes sweet memories. You are also encouraged to bring a photo or object that represents your legacy or loved ones who have passed to place on the ofrenda. You can dress up in outfits that suit the occasion, put some flowers in your hair, wear skeleton regalia, or put on a flowing dress, and join your friends for this lively and lovely event with amazing food from New Mexico tamales. So don't be like Marvin and just hope that things happen. Buy your tickets. Thank you.
Okay, deep breath. And during our prelude, I invite you to silently greet and engage with one another just by seeing each other eye to eye, acknowledging their beauty and their value and your gratefulness that they are here. Silently.
Good morning. I'm Stephanie Rains, one of the celebrants for Buff Sunday services, and I picked this topic because I've been so freaked out about this election. Anybody else out there have that? So that feels better already to know I'm not alone. And there's all this emphasis on saving our democracy. So I've been wondering, what does that mean? And what can I do to save it? Thank goodness democracy is a concept embedded in our Unitarian Universalist values, and therefore it's important to talk about it here. Last week, Rupert talked about pluralism, and I don't know about you, I watched it on Zoom, but it was fabulous and very inspiring. And I think one of the important aspects to democracy that I think is at stake is diversity and equity. Today, Tom and I are going to talk about what it means to be citizens of a democracy. What is mine to do? We hope that you will wonder about that along with us. We do not pretend to have answers. One of the signs of a healthy democracy is spirited dialogue and a willingness to listen to viewpoints different from our own. We hope that you will talk about this with each other at coffee hour and with your neighbors and relatives. We are extremely fortunate to belong to a faith, a congregation that provides the space for dialogue. I'm grateful that you are here today to join in that conversation.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tom Nicholas, the other celebrant for today's service. For the chalice lighting statement today, I'm going to read two brief quotations that fit together in an interesting way, I think. The first one's from Sharon Salzberg. If you think about it, the degree in which our world is stitched together with loving kindness is extraordinary. To a surprising extent, accomplishing the simplest daily tasks requires that most people we encounter be relatively decent, even kind. This network of decency is so close at hand, so mundane and ordinary, that it's mostly invisible to us. Even in the midst of the most dire conditions, there are countless examples of people who still manage to love, share, help one another, smile, and laugh. And I was going to read the second one while Stephanie lit the chalice, but she already did. So here's the second quotation. This one is by William Stafford. I seem to be incapable of doing the celebrant's role without bringing in a quotation from William Stafford. So this is the quotation. Hurt or scorned people are places where real enemies hide. And now, please join me in reading our covenant. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service gives it life. Celebrating our diversity and joined by a quest for truth, we work for peace and honor all creation. Is our covenant. And now we're going to sing number 305 in the hymnal, De Colores, and I'm going to ask Wendy Howard to come up and help me with this. We're going to do something kind of creative with this. You'll notice that there are 3 English verses. It's number 305 in the gray hymnal. There are 3 English verses and then a verse in Spanish at the bottom with numero uno by it. So the Spanish verse and the first English verse are both the first verses. So what I want to do is to sing the first English verse and the verse in Spanish together at the same time, okay? And the idea is that this singing the same song together in different languages at the same time is a kind of metaphor for democracy, because we all speak our own languages and yet have to work together. So some people can choose to sing in Spanish with Wendy, and other people can choose to sing in English with me. And we're just going to sing the song all the way through 2 times. Okay, so verses 1 and 2.
Okay, I need a little help now from you littles and bigs, but especially from the littles, because I'm going to ask you to tell us what words to sing for our song, because your voices are important too. So I'm going to sing a song in words and tune that may be familiar, and then I'm going to ask you to put in some words that we can sing. So it's called This Little Light of Mine. And each verse, well, I'll do a couple of verses so you can get the idea. So, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. And one reason that song is so important to me is because I need to remember and I need to be reminded by the people around me that how I am in the world and how I treat people and how I bring my light to the world is so much more important than what I'm thinking about wild ideas. So it's important to do that when we're just together in small groups. It's also important to do with the whole world. And so I'm going to do one more verse where I decide the words, and then I'm going to ask you. So, all around the world, I'm going to let it shine. All around the world, I'm gonna let it shine. All around the world, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let Now, can any of you... Oh, Nico asks, let what shine? So, Nico, I'm going to ask you, what would you like to let shine that's important to you? Maybe something about your sweetness. Or Torah. Or Luca. You were... Let the sun shine. Let's think how to phrase that. Gonna let the sun shine. I'm gonna let it shine. Gonna let that sun shine. I'm gonna let it shine. Gonna let that sun shine. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Okay, Torah, I know you have an idea. Sunset. That is so real. That is so real. Our world has comings of the sun and goings of the sun, and we know that it'll come back, and we can bask in all that, and we can share all of that. So, how to phrase that? Sunset, light of mine? Okay, Corey, sunset, light of mine. Sunset, light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Sunset, light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Sunset, light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. And so I want you all to know, no matter how little or big, old or young, that your voice and what you have to share is really important. You're going to go off to your classrooms now and do some more of that, and we're going to do that here too. And so let's just sing This Little Light of Mine as they go. This little light of mine, let's clap. I'm going to let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. You may not. The children's chalice, with her up to share. We light our own chalice here, but we also light a children's chalice every week, and so they bring it up to their classrooms, and they're sharing. And do that sitting around the chalice, so it's really beautiful.
The closer he gets, the better you look. There's something about an aqua velva man. This bud's for you. A little dab will do you. Aren't you glad you use Dial? Don't you wish everybody did? Of course, these are all slogans from old, well, ancient advertising campaigns. I'm using them here to remind us that the role of consumer is one that we are all asked to play. In that role, we make decisions based on what we personally want or need. And we're constantly bombarded with advertising and marketing campaigns that try to shape those decisions. These days, even universities present themselves as brands. So it's easy to be left with the feeling that life is really about nothing more than fulfilling our own personal desires. But there's another role that needs to be filled in order for a democratic society to function effectively, or really to function at all. It's the role of citizen. So I want to focus on this question: what does it mean to be a citizen? Well, first of all, it means being committed to participating actively in the ongoing life of a group of some kind. We usually associate the word citizen with participation in civic life, but I think we can also apply it to primary relationships and deep friendships. So let's start there and then move on to talking about larger groups. In order for a relationship to work, both people have to be thinking about what's good for the relationship as a whole. Just think about what happens in the everyday functioning of a marriage or primary relationship. Decisions have to be made. What are we going to have for dinner? What kind of car are we going to buy? Who's going to vacuum the carpet? Often, the two people are not going to have the same opinion. Somehow it's always the other person who should vacuum the carpet. I don't know. So they have to talk about it. Hopefully, each person will be open to listening to the other person's viewpoint, and together they'll come up with a decision that they both can live with. If you were in a relationship with someone who only thought about what they themselves wanted, well, you would probably stop caring about the relationship and would stop being a citizen of that relationship. So I kind of like using the word citizen in that way, that you're a citizen of a relationship. So let's turn the dial a bit and move on to a larger group. What does being a citizen of Buff look like? Part of it is that you participate in the everyday life of Buff. Maybe you attend Sunday services regularly. Maybe you're on the board or on a committee. Maybe you sing in the choir. Maybe you help with the community dinners on Wednesday night. Maybe you work on the tech side of Sunday services. Maybe you help with the fundraising auctions or organize the writing of postcards encouraging people in swing states to vote. In addition, I think that being a citizen of Buff involves thinking about the direction you think Buff should go in and trying to support movement in that direction. Obviously, just as in an interpersonal relationship, not everyone is going to have the same opinions, and everyone is going to have to accept that things aren't always going to go exactly the way they want them to. But it's important for everybody to feel listened to. If they don't, they will stop caring and drop out. Let's widen the circle yet again. What does being a citizen of Bellingham look like? I don't want to try to answer that question so much as just raise it, and to say that whatever the answer is for any one particular person, it's going to include asking questions like, what is it that I cherish about this town? What are important problems that this town faces? What direction do I want the town to go in the future? What activities can I engage in, no matter how modest, that will help move the town in that direction? So being a citizen of Bellingham is not the same as just being a resident of Bellingham. You become a citizen by thinking about a community that you are a part of and care about, and you participate in actions that stem from this care. Being a participant, I think that's key. Okay. Turn the dial some more, and we get to the level of our country. Now, here we've gotten to the really hard part. We have a choice about being part of a relationship or an organization or a town, but we don't get to choose the country we're born into. We're thrust into a moment in history that we did not personally create, and yet is ours to own and grapple with. And I want to acknowledge that I'm speaking as a white person from a privileged background. From that perspective, what I see is that grappling honestly with American history is going to break my heart. Here's a poem I once wrote about looking at a wall of old family portraits. Examining all the pictures on the wall, each photograph of each face frozen now in place, I turn every portrait this way and that. I notice each smile, return each stare, and wonder what was hidden there, mysterious yet mundane. No doctor warned against this kind of pain. I feel each crack inside my breaking heart as what holds my life together pulls my life apart. So I think the fundamental thing in terms of being a citizen of this country is to sit with our history and try to take it in. Really, really take it in. I think it's our history that holds us together and at the same time is pulling us apart. And I think we'll keep being pulled apart until we, as a nation, can acknowledge and take in the reality of our own history. So if I could do that, if I could really take in the actual history of my own country, what would love of my country look like? My guess is that what I would see is that the best thing about our country is an aspiration, not a reality. To quote John Dewey, it's the ideal of equality of opportunity and of freedom for all without regard to birth and status as a condition for the effective realization of that equality. Of course, when that ideal is set against the actual course of American history, it feels like the cruelest joke imaginable. And the natural reaction is to become cynical, and in so doing, give up on the idea of being a citizen. But I wonder if it's possible to hold my broken heart inside me and move forward as carefully as I can, trying to find tiny ways to help bring that ideal into our daily life. All I can do is try. As you listen to Andrea improvise on themes from Finlandia, please consider some of the questions I have raised. What does citizenship look like to you, and how does it play out in your everyday life?
Thank you, Andrea. Before I retired from my long career in education, I had an opportunity to do a series of workshops organized by Parker Palmer, and they were about the courage to teach. And ever since, I've been a fan of his, because he always is tackling this business of being in community in a way that allows us to also be authentic. For this service, I've been reading his newest book, which he says was the hardest to write, called Healing the Heart of Democracy: The Courage to Create a Politics Worthy of the Human Spirit. One of my favorite passages is a description he gives of an island of wild grasses in a part of the country that is mostly inhabited by monoculture of agribusiness. I'm going to read a little bit of it to you. There are more than 150 species of plants on this prairie, to say nothing of the insects, birds, and mammals they attract, just as there were before we first broke the sod and started farming. It's beautiful, of course, but that's not the whole story. Biodiversity makes an ecosystem more creative, productive, adaptive to change, and resilient in the face of stress. The agribusiness land we've been driving through provides us with food and fuel, but we pay a very steep price for this kind of monoculture. It saps the earth's vitality and puts the quality and sustainability of our food supply at risk. The prairie as it once was, a state to which it can be restored, has a lot to teach us about how we need to live. American democracy at its best is like that island of restored prairie. In a world where human diversity is often suppressed, where authoritarian regimes have kept people lined up like rows of cultivated corn, harvesting their labor and sometimes their lives to protect the interests of the state, the diversity that grows in a democracy delights the heart as well as the eye. I heartily recommend this book. He goes on to discuss how essential diversity is in our democracy, and how equally essential it is to learn how to hold the tension inherent in diversity. As a citizen in a democracy and of the world, Palmer says we need two things: courage and humility. The courage to speak up and stand up for what we believe, and the humility to listen to other perspectives with an open-mindedness that allows us to change our mind. He goes on to name 5 habits of heart that we need to develop in order to be a courageous and humble citizen. So here they are. And I'm going to actually give them to you twice. So you can listen first time without evaluating, and then I'll let you have a second go at it. First of all, we must understand that we're all in this together. Second, We must appreciate the value of otherness. 3, we must cultivate the ability to see creative possibilities in tension and disagreement. 4, we must develop a sense of personal voice and agency. And 5th, we must strengthen our capacity to create community. So that list has been ringing in me since reading it. And of course, some of those habits are familiar. And I've been asking myself, how well do I practice them? And which ones are actually challenging? They're habits that need to be practiced in our daily lives, as Tom said, in our families, our neighborhoods, our schools, our mosques, synagogues, churches, our politics, and in our world. Which of them do you already practice, and which might need more intention and attention? So I'm going to read the list again and try to read them slowly and ask you to consider that question. What role do they play in your life, and how much do you practice them? And here's the tricky one. Which ones are hard? Which ones do you forget about? The first one is we must understand that we're all in this together. 2, we must appreciate the value of otherness, the essential importance of diversity, like in that wild grassland. How diversity makes us stronger, more resilient, more creative. That it's not a problem to be solved. Number 3, we must cultivate the ability to see creative possibilities in tension and disagreement. The ability to collaborate and live with uncertainty and paradox and the messiness that comes with diversity. And I'll confess, that's the one I have a lot of trouble with. But when I go back to thinking about what the value of diversity is, it helps me with that one. Number 4, we must develop a sense of personal voice and agency. Confidence that we have something to offer and the courage to offer it. I just want to name that for both Tom and I, it takes courage to be up here. And any of you might consider having something to offer at some time for our services. Think about what really matters to you. And 5th, we must strengthen our capacity to create community where all feel welcome and safe. There are huge problems in our world, problems that no one can solve alone. How can I participate democratically in solving problems wherever I am? Parker Palmer's ideas offer me some hope for how to be a more engaged citizen. When I look around for examples of engaged citizenry, I see much to be grateful for. I think the way we save our democracy is by participating in it. Here are some examples, and I don't pretend that this is a complete list. These are just things that I've noticed really recently. So there are teams of people planning and hosting community potlucks right here at Buff. There's one every month after the service. And I just wanted to call out that the purpose of that is to create community, to help us know each other. There are people volunteering for committees all over the place in this congregation. And then we have a board. People volunteer to be on the board. And our own board is working to make important decisions by consensus. A process that can take longer, but means that everyone is heard and all perspectives are taken into consideration when decisions are made. I appreciate people who tell others about issues that matter to them and invite people to go with them to a town hall or county commission meeting. I recently got an email from Deb Cruz. She's fabulous about telling us things that we need to pay attention to. I'm so impressed by the national You the Vote campaign and our own efforts here writing postcards, where we've supported people all over the country in their right to vote and protect women's bodily autonomy. I'm grateful to Heather Cox Richardson, who writes about the current state of democracy while giving an historical perspective that educates me daily. I start my day almost every day reading. That doesn't mean it's always easy to take in what she has to say. I appreciate the many brave journalists who dig deep into stories that matter and uncover attempts to sabotage our democracy. I appreciate our own local newspaper, the Cascadia Daily News, especially their well-researched voter's guide. I recommend it. And they have a wonderful guest commentary on Friday, just published, by our own Jeffrey Copeland. And it's on a related topic about what he thinks about our country and what needs to change. I'm grateful. This is on a very minute level, but it has to do with the question Tom was asking about our community, our town. I'm grateful to the unknown person who placed a beautiful hand-painted bench in a public space in my neighborhood for all to enjoy. That creative urge and trust that it will be cared for, inspires me to consider what I might do to add to the beauty of this town I love. Can you think of people you appreciate who are engaged citizens? We inspire each other when we try things and when we share our efforts, because we can all be part of creating a better world, and none of us can do it alone. Collaborating with other engaged citizens, other humans who want this experiment in democracy to continue is essential for me. Here at Buff, we can practice and develop the habits of heart that Parker Palmer mentions. In fact, I think we practice those habits all the time here, and practice means we won't always get it right. I know that practice for me means I'm still learning and will benefit from some gentle feedback. Can we be citizens of Buff and of the world where we are attempting to do better when we know better, to quote Maya Angelou, striving to both find our voice and hear the voices of others, recognizing that the common good is where we all stand together? Can we persist in participating in our democracy even when it's hard? Can we keep learning what it is that we need to do to be part of this citizenry? Have you voted yet? Thank you.
Stephanie, when you said about the common good, or that was the theme throughout both of you, and how it's not generated by always thinking about what's best for us, made me think about our collections that we take every month to support an organization within our community that does clearly hands-on small things that make the world better. And I connected that to how the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, as it's rephrased in so many different religious traditions around the world, is so clearly not about me. And if that is the rule, which I really respect, then that is about how we are in the world. When we think about the people who can benefit from our collections, I would urge you today to think about how you would wish to be treated in the circumstances people are in that we're trying to help. So, Henry?
Hello, I'm Henry or Hank Ohana, both are fine, and I'm here today to talk about CAST, which is an organization that I volunteer with, and it helps to feed people who are hungry. And it's a perfect service to, have this be part of, because I was thinking about, as Tom was talking about, how we're good citizens in, our world, just as Paul was saying, and also about gratitude that Stephanie was talking about, and how they both weave into this group and the people we serve. So CAST is a Bellingham local organization, a group of people who feed people who are hungry. You don't have to have any qualifiers. If you show up needing food, then we feed you. Originally, it had stood for coffee and sandwiches on Tuesday when it very first started about 25 years ago. But we've expanded and serve 4 days a week, and it's just coffee and sandwiches together. What we serve is not glamorous. People get 2 sandwiches, either peanut butter and jelly or cheese, a ramen soup in a cup, a granola bar, and usually a piece of fruit. But even as basic as this is, about 70 people every night show up to have this. Most of the people are regulars. And that just shows, even with other kinds of safety nets, that there's still food insecurity out there, and that people are really needing to have something more to eat. You might recognize some of these people. Many are wearing ragged or stained clothing. Their hair might be unkempt. They may be missing teeth, not smell very good. They're often the people that we politely turn away from. But at CAST, these people are seen for the humans that they are and offered the dignity of that. And so I want to give you an example of one person. Her name is Laura. She's 55 years old. She is homeless. Before she was homeless, she was able to get by as an Uber driver, but eventually couldn't and wasn't able to continue the payments on her car and so now lives in base camp. And everything in the world that she owns, she has in a wagon that she pulls behind her. So everything that's both functional and anything that has ever been precious to her that she's still been able to hold on to is there. So I just want you to try to imagine how that is for a moment. Think about the photographs you have. Think about the keepsakes that you've inherited from parents or grandparents. Think about any of those items that are special to you, and now try to have them all be in a wagon that you pull behind you, but make sure that you also have some clothes in there, a sleeping bag, and anything you might need to keep warm. However, you know, Laura, she wants to give back. She wants to contribute. She shows up early every night that we serve, and she helps the volunteers who serve set up the tables, carry out the tubs of sandwiches, bring out the baskets of fruit and granola bars. And what we hear from people constantly who come through the line is how grateful they are. They're grateful for the food, but they're also just grateful to be seen and treated like the human beings that they are. CAST is a 100% volunteer organization. The place that houses us, houses our supplies and lets us make sandwiches and so forth, is Our Savior Lutheran Church in Fairhaven, and they donate their space and resources. The money that we use to feed them is 100% donated. We have no grants or scholarships, and every bit of it goes to feeding people. So there's nothing lost in the transaction. So obviously, this morning is our special collection, and I hope you consider donating generously. I want to say that there's plenty of opportunities for volunteering as well. So if you'd like to think about volunteering, talk to me. There are a number of BUF members that already do. Wendy Howard, Constance Ohana, Judy Frubauer, Beth Fuller, Ann Stevenson, Ron Haynes, and me. And I know I'm forgetting at least one person that I can't think of who. And in addition, if you'd like to become part of the $10 a month club, which is really, really helpful for us because then we know what we can have coming in, please do talk to me, and I'd be happy to connect you with who can get that set up. In addition, donations of warm socks, hats, gloves, anything like that, toiletries, we give those out as they're donated, and if none are donated, we don't give them out. But if they are donated, those are really, really helpful items. So there's actually a box here at BUF in the coat closet that says for CAST, and you can put things in there and we will take them. And I hope that you will consider donating generously and possibly volunteering too. Thanks very much for your time.
I think almost all of the organizations that we contribute to this way have opportunities to volunteer as well. So don't think of this as only a pitch for money, which I know you're getting from every corner. So again, think of how you would wish to be treated if you were in another situation. And as the ushers come forward, if you have cash, that is very easy to see how it will get into a check that BUF writes. But if you have a check, write BUF on the check, and we will compile all of that right in the memo line, whether it's for CAST or BUF. Thank you.
please join me in singing number 159, This Is My Song, in the gray hymnal. That's number 159. I think this is a good song to stand when you sing it.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carrie Kenline, another member of the celebrant team. And one of the ways that I've been dealing with being freaked out about this election is writing a poem a day. And I wrote one recently and then realized that it was actually an expression for me of sacred democracy, the theme of this worship service. So because this is one of my safe places, I just contacted Stephanie and Tom and said, hey, you want me to share this? So Stephanie and I will be sharing this together. It's called I Pledge Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the emerging goodness and to the kindness for which it stands. One people, multifaceted, with liberty and justice for all.
Not just skimming the scum from the surface, a thriving ecosystem with deep roots and quiet agreements and an easy flow of giving and receiving.
May we start with the multitude of energies inside us. May we elect our wisest tendencies to guide us.
May we be one people, multifaceted, finding our way gracefully and clumsily toward liberty and justice for all. Please join us now in singing Circle Round, and it would be great if there would be a center internal circle.